Hello Rookie Camp League. Welcome to this year's weekly recap show. I'm your host, Marty McDraft. This season pretty much started off right where last season ended, with Rich beating Casey. Only this time, Rich beat Casey 124-52, which was bad enough to place third all-time with a margin of victory of 72 points. Not a very strong start for last year's second-place team. Good news for Casey is he did not leave many points on the bench. Bad news is he did not leave many points on the scoreboard either. He sure opened this season with a turd of a game. Rich traded his way to victory this week behind Arian Foster's 48-point outburst and Wes Welker's 18. Javid Best, the stud, scored 15, but only averaged 1.4 yards per carry. Breeze disappointed with only 13, but it didn't matter as Rich cruised to an opening win. For more on Northern Cal's problems, please welcome Sarah Palin, who seems to know as much about winning an election as Casey does about drafting a football team.
Thanks, Marty. I'm a little sad that Casey struggled so badly this week, scoring the lowest points of all participants. We all really wanted him to defeat Rich. The problems for Casey are interesting. Houston wins 34-24, but Schwab scores just 5 points. I don't get it. San Francisco laid an egg, causing Gore to be horrible and Sean Green. Yikes. Can we say LaDainian Tomlinson starter? Greg Olsen only snagged 37 of Jay Cutler's 372 yards, but fumbled away those points. All in all, it was pretty pathetic, Marty.
I agree 100%, Sarah. Tell us about an equally unimpressive team, the Ike Shuffle.
Marty, this team was just as bad, minus the negative points at running back. Justin traded his top 2 wide receivers just before Thursday's kickoff, but it didn't matter. He would have lost regardless. Hakeem Nicks scored 25 points on the bench, but also would not have made a difference. 61 points in a 10-team league is pathetic. Good thing he took the last-second advice of Jason Reel and took Dez Bryant out of the game and inserted Mike Sims Walker. Walker scored 0. I would have thought he'd have learned about Jason's fantasy team management by now. Guess not. Adrian Peterson scored just 9 points, having touched the ball just 5 times in the second half. Eli Manning scored more than he was projected, but still threw 3 interceptions. Bad game all the way around.
While 81 points is by no means amazing, Elway or the Highway cruised thanks to Jamal Charles in his Monday night 15 points. Phillip Rivers scored 19, and did so perfectly for Elway, throwing to some wide receiver nobody has. Bad news for Jason is that Ryan Grant injured his ankle, and is now out for the season. Teammate Greg Jennings scored 14 points at wide receiver, to help pave the way to the 1-0 start. In another game, the Moville Monkeys handed the Compton Tar Babes a defeat, behind 433 yards and 3 touchdowns from Peyton Manning. With 36 points, he was the second highest scoring player of the week. Manning and the wide receivers carried this team to victory, with Hines Ward netting 14 points and Carolina's Steve Smith scoring 13. Nothing amazing from the running back crew, but at least Scott had the foresight to drop 2 players, one being Santonio Holmes, to pick up Tim Hightower. I can see that paying huge dividends. Not.
Tell me how it is that you lose a game where Tom Brady throws for 258 yards, 3 touchdowns and no picks. Chad Ochocinco scores 25 points on 159 yards receiving and at TD. I'll tell you how. Number 1 overall pick Ray Rice scored a whopping 5 points and top wide receiver Deshaun Jackson scored 3. It's tough when your top scorer makes up his own last names. On a good note, at least Kerry took out Patrick Creighton, since he didn't even play in what could be called a battle for the Alamo, except the Alamo is in San Antonio and these guys are in Round Rock, and there was no football played at the Alamo. Never mind. Anyways, the Crackers scored 69 points, and continued their losing ways from last season right on into this season, falling by 37 to the Dogs. Jones-Drew was way under projection, as was Favre and Colston. Roddy White led the team with 15 points. Carson Palmer sat on the bench with 22 points, while Favre started and scored 7, and Aaron McFadden sat with 20, while Jones Drew started with 10. Eddie Royal scored 9 on the bench, while Dwayne Bowe got the start, and managed just one lousy point. Starters scored 69, while the bench scored 61. Rich was right. Maybe someone should have paid more attention to their draft than the women, when we all chose our teams. Where do you get your ownership advice? Did you call Jason for last-second advice also?
Rock on, or actually round rock off. Anyways, the Dogs, ranked number 1 for the second week in a row, had 3 starters score 22 or more, including Cutler's 22, Mendenhall's 23 and Johnson's 30. Amazing considering they had Forte on the bench with 33 points. Some wide receiver points were left on the bench, with Holden scoring 15 and Berrien getting the start, and scoring zip nada nothing. I don't think that Favre guy likes him, Sarah. In our final matchup, Jay Cutler and Dreamy won their first game of the season, beating little brother JP in the Las Vegas Silent Night 74-64. This is Van's first year attending the draft and it showed, at least in the win-loss column. 74 points is nothing to be proud of, though, especially when the Cardinals led the team with 16 points. We talked about Favre not liking Berrien, but he sure loves him some Schenko. His 13 points led all position players. Congrats on win number 1, Van. Let's just hope you don't need to use any of those atrocious backups. Tell us about the Silent Night, Sarah.
Of course, Marty. Let's see here. They scored 64 points. Yeah, no. And, well, it looks like Miles Austin had nearly half of it, scoring 24. Good thing he took his beloved San Francisco defense so early in the draft. How could he have never gotten that -1 otherwise? Oh boy, kill me, Marty.
Just finish up, Sarah. This is beginning to bore me.
Austin Collie sat on the bench with 23 points, and had he started, the Silent Knights would have won. Isn't that a shame, Marty?
Well, that's it for this week's recap. Good luck next week.